I don't doubt the aspirations of all parents in relation to their children. But I mean all parents. What we've been able to do is to make sure we release the funding to ensure that our state secondary schools have the teachers they need. And there's no point the party opposite pretending that they're interested in state education when they left them without the teaching they needed.
Dr. Lear-Tegvold.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You would never expect to witness a moment like this. Before long, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer was openly embarrassed and accused of lying in Parliament over a claim critics called completely absurd. It was something MPs could hardly imagine he would say, let alone try to defend. However, when he delivered what opponents described as one of his most blatant falsehoods, parliamentarians struggled to contain themselves. A wave of sharp reactions filled the chamber. The Speaker was forced to intervene, and the tension clearly rattled Starmer as the situation escalated. But what exactly did he say that convinced critics he was presenting fiction as fact? In this video, let's unpack the full story. At times, politicians make claims so bold that they leave audiences stunned. The statements can feel so brazen that people momentarily lose the ability to respond, struck by the sheer audacity on display. That, supporters of the criticism argue, is exactly what happened in the British Parliament when attention turned to Starmer's policy to impose added tax on private school fees.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. St Hilda's Girls' School looks set to join Emmanuel Jewish Prep as the second school in Bushey alone forced to close because of Labour's VAT hike. This is a double hit to aspiration. First, the parents, many of whom not wealthy, who have described the significant sacrifices they have made to send their children to these schools. And secondly, to the excellent local state schools, including the one that I attended, which simply do not have the places, meaning this policy won't even save money. So may I therefore urge the Prime Minister, even at this late stage, to look again at the failures in this policy.
Even before Keir Starmer made a statement at pmqs, a private school in his own constituency had already announced it was shutting down because of his VAT policy. The Village School for Girls in Camden, located within his Holborn and Street Pancras, publicly blamed Labour's VAT tax and national insurance rise for making its operations unsustainable. The school's administration directly pointed to Labour's taxation, making it difficult for Starmer to dismiss the impact. And it isn't just one school. 12 private schools have already closed while linking their shutdowns to Labour's VAT policy. Reports indicate that at least 77 independent schools in England have shut since Labour first proposed the tax, with many more expected to follow. The pattern, critics argue, is becoming clear. Small and mid-sized independent schools, particularly those outside London and the South East, are struggling under the pressure of Labour's tax changes. Parents are finding it harder to absorb sudden fee increases. Student numbers are falling. Schools are closing their doors. And the displaced pupils, critics warn, are moving into an already stretched state education system that lacks the capacity to absorb them smoothly. When Labour first unveiled the VAT plan, the party said it would raise £1.8 billion for education. Starmer insisted the money would fund more teachers and strengthen state schools. On paper, the proposal sounded compelling, but opponents argue that pushing large numbers of students out of private education risks placing extra strain on the state sector rather than easing it. Many state schools are already crowded. Teachers in numerous areas report heavy workloads. The concern raised by critics is that a sudden influx of additional pupils could intensify competition for places at high-performing schools, potentially leading to larger classes and tighter resources. Supporters of the policy say it is designed to improve fairness. Critics counter that the transition could be disruptive if capacity does not expand quickly enough. They also note that private school closures could leave some teachers seeking new posts at the same time state schools face hiring and funding constraints. Starmer's own education history has also drawn attention in this debate. He has said he attended a grammar school in Surrey that later became independent during his time there. When questioned about that point, he responded that he did not think he fully appreciated the change at the time, a remark that has continued to fuel political criticism of his position.
I was a scholarship boy at my school and very proud of it. And I have to ask, what kind of a politician is it that sets out to make it more difficult for schools to offer exactly the kind of scholarships and bursaries that gave him such a crucial leg up in life? And the answer, of course, is Keir Starmer and the opportunity-destroying, aspiration-hating Labour Party. Read about it in my column in the Daily Mail.
So the man who now claims private education is an unfair privilege, literally attended one himself, yet wants to block other families from making the same choice. Critics say his stance reeks of elitist hypocrisy, that he climbed the ladder and then pulled it up behind him. Meanwhile, institutions like Eton, Harrow, and Westminster are expected to survive comfortably. The real pressure from Labour's tax policy, opponents argue, will fall not on the ultra-wealthy, but on middle-class parents who stretch their finances to send their children to smaller independent schools, only to be hit by Keir Starmer's controversial plan.
The Prime Minister's decision to impose VAT on independent schools strips hard-working families of the choice for what is best for their children, while risking job losses for teachers, increasing class sizes, and squeezing state school resources to their absolute limit. With these impending threats, what actions is the Prime Minister taking to mitigate these effects if he is not undertaking an impact assessment to understand them?
I do understand that many parents across the country save hard to be able to send their children to private school because they have aspiration for their children. So does every parent who sends their children to a state school. And the problem we have is we don't have enough teachers in key subjects in our state secondary school. Now, the party opposite may be prepared to tolerate that. I'm not. And that's why we've made this change to fund 6,500 teachers.
Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel for more exclusive videos on the groundbreaking changes happening in Offscript. Let's continue now. Furthermore, Labour's tax rate on private schools isn't just unpopular. Critics argue it may even be unlawful. The Independent Schools Council has launched a High Court challenge against Labour's VAT policy, claiming it violates the human rights of children and parents by disrupting their education. At the same time, Labour MPs are growing uneasy. Even Rachel Maskell, a Labour MP, has warned the policy is too blunt and may ultimately need to be reversed. She suggested smaller schools should be exempt from the tax, acknowledging the damage already being done. Labour may have backed itself into a corner. If a legal challenge to the VAT policy succeeds, Keir Starmer will be forced into an embarrassing U-turn. And if he refuses, Labour could be blamed for triggering one of the biggest education crises in modern British history. Then came the moment of truth. After the MP urged Starmer to reverse the VAT policy, many observers believed the criticism had landed. They expected Starmer to dodge the question or promise a review. Instead, he appeared to take a very different path, one some critics say looked dangerously close to political self-sabotage.
I don't doubt the aspirations of all parents in relation to their children. But I mean all parents. What we've been able to do is to make sure we release the funding to ensure that our state secondary schools have the teachers they need. And there's no point the party opposite pretending that they're interested in state education when they left them without the teaching they needed.
Dr. Rear, check ball.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Keir Starmer's political deception was laid bare in Parliament, and this time even his own policies appeared to turn against him. The Prime Minister's smug dismissal of reality was met with an open challenge from Conservative MPs who could no longer sit through what they saw as blatant misdirection. Yes, Starmer insisted, without presenting clear evidence, that his controversial VAT policy was not causing private school closures. But even before the words left his mouth, critics argued the facts were already undermining his claim. That was the moment Victoria Atkins, a Tory frontbencher, reached her limit. She directly challenged Starmer's assertion, shouting across Parliament, "That is a lie." The chamber instantly erupted. Atkins, of course, was required to withdraw the remark. Parliamentary rules forbid MPs from calling one another liars, regardless of how strongly they feel. Still, many observers noted she had voiced what plenty in the chamber were already thinking.
Shh, there is no punchline. I presume something was said that shouldn't have been said. I'm sure the member would like to withdraw what was said, if they've anything about them.
Starmer was caught denying basic reality, attempting to gaslight the entire country into believing his crippling tax policies were not damaging the very schools he claimed would adapt. This was not just another routine clash in Parliament. It was Starmer's credibility being ripped apart in full public view. This went far beyond a difficult PMQs moment. It felt like a political reckoning. He was confronted with questions about his policies, his record, and his consistency, all on national television. Yet critics say his response has remained strikingly dismissive. Even as schools report closures, as parents struggle with rising fees, and as students face disruption to their education, he continues to insist the policy is working as intended. For many opponents, this does not look like the leadership Britain needs. They argue Starmer is appearing increasingly detached and out of touch, more focused on political positioning than practical solutions. If the pressure continues to build, this education row could become a defining test of his premiership. British voters have historically shown little patience for leaders they believe are not being straight with them. The real political risk for Keir Starmer may not simply be policy fallout, but the growing perception gap between government claims and public experience. What do you think? Does Starmer still have the moral authority to remain Prime Minister, or are critics overstating the case? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you want more videos like this, please like and share the video and subscribe for further updates on OFS script and how events are unfolding.